Americans don't know anything. We know after 9/11, I think about it now, the propaganda to make me afraid of Muslims. I can't even imagine being a Muslim growing up after 9/11 in America, because I know how I felt about them. And I was young, I was 11 years old, but that beating every day in our heads that every Muslim was a terrorist was the idea that you got.
Then I went to Saudi Arabia, and I don't think I've ever been to a country that was more hospitable to me. The love that I got, the respect that I got, I literally sat back and I hung myself out to dry on a podcast. I go, wow, I was brainwashed.
Yeah, same. And so first I want to say, just like to all Muslims growing up during that time in America, I am sorry on behalf of America for the way that you were treated. There's weapons of mass destruction, and then they never found them, but in the process they killed 1 million Iraqi civilians, right? And it made us think it's okay to just keep bombing Muslims. That was the purpose to me of that educational propaganda and brainwashing, is that we feel nothing for Muslims if they die. And that's so wrong. As a Christian, it bothers me.
More than a year. A lot of the people that we have thought for the last more than a year, we thought that they were pro-Palestinian, but actually all they are is anti-Jewish and hate Jews. And they're using the genocide in Gaza as an excuse for them to ramp up their anti-Jewish hatred and making it acceptable, because after all, look at how horrendous it is, what's happening there. So they're not actually pro-Palestinian at all. They're not pro-Muslim at all. They're not pro-Arab at all. All they are is anti-Jewish. And we know that that's true because also, as I've talked about many times, a lot of these same people, like, for example, take a Candace Owens, who has just come out, recently as suddenly pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel, after having worked for the Daily Liar, Ben Shapiro. She's not pro-Palestinian at all. She's not pro-Arab. She's certainly not pro-Muslim at all. She's just using this as an opportunity to rehash all of this old, Rothschild's 19th century anti-Jewish hatred, all this anti-Jewish Nazi bigotry. That's the only thing she's doing. She's not pro-Palestinian at all. And I think that you're going to find that there's a lot of them that are like that, just like that Armenian that I did a video about, who went viral a few weeks back. You're not mad about what's happening in Gaza. You're happy about what's happening in Gaza because it gives you an opportunity to be as anti-Jewish as you want to be without anyone blaming you. And you can be anti-Jewish in the context of the genocide in Gaza and make it look like you're being virtuous. So this is the genocide of our brothers and sisters in Gaza is the best thing that ever happened to you. Because anyway, you've been supporting it all along. You support your government, don't you? And the very fact that you are trying to shift the blame over to the Israelis, over to the Zionists exclusively, shows how much you support your government, and your government is the one who is actually responsible for the genocide in Gaza. And your government is actually the one who's been responsible for the occupation of Palestine ever since it's been occupied. Your government is responsible for that. It's a genocide by veto. We've talked about that many, many times. So these people are not pro-Palestinian at all, and they're not interested in doing any sort of research that would debunk their opinion, because they're not people who care about facts in the first place. Again, we're like talking about Candace Owens. I saw a clip of her talking about how, before I was working with Ben Shapiro, so I was believing the Zionist propaganda. I was believing the Zionist narrative. But now that I'm seeing everything in Gaza, seeing everything that's happening, well, it changed my mind, and now I'm talking against it. Okay, all that she just said is that she very comfortably and freely talks about things she doesn't know about. That's the only thing she just said. Because you just now found out about what's going on in Gaza. You just said that. You just now found out about what's going on in Gaza, but this isn't when you first started talking about it. You've been pro-Israel from before. That means you were pro-Israel comfortably, without any information, without any education, without understanding the issue at all, without doing any research at all. So what makes anyone think that she's doing research now? What makes anyone think that she cares about the rightness or the correctness of her position now? These are people who will just say whatever they want to say according to their own internal bigotry, their own internal hatred, their own internal ideology, and frankly, their own internal white supremacy. Anyone can research this very easily. So it's already known that the people who spout this conspiracy theory, who spout this kind of narrative, are not people who care about the truth anyway. They're not people who are going to research anyway. and you can probably see, I haven't looked at it, but you can probably see by the replies that we have on this space, that we're dealing with a lot of people who are very triggered by anyone trying to tell them the truth, anyone trying to tell them factual information that makes it very difficult for them to continue spouting the lies that they're spouting. So, yes, you can do the research if you want to, but we already know you won't. It's a very strange argument to make that America's policy towards Israel, I mean, think about it. This is the argument that they're actually making, the people who say this. The argument that you're making is that America's policy towards Israel is because Zionists, the AIPAC lobby or the Jewish lobby, collective is pro-Israeli lobby, is able to buy your politicians. So actually, you're already saying that your government is corrupt. You're already saying that all of your politicians just are for the highest bidder and have no morality anyway. So what on earth makes you think anyway that your government is so moral that the only way they could ever possibly support a brutal regime and a brutal colonial project, the only way they could ever do that is if they were just pressured by the Jews? You just said that they're corrupt. You just said that they're immoral. You just said that they're evil. You just said that they'll do anything for money. What kind of a defense is that? How does that absolve you or your government in any way of its actions? Your argument is that our government is corrupt. That's your argument. But at the same time, you're saying that they wouldn't do something that is corrupt and evil because they're so good. This is illogical. You're contradicting yourself. And then, if you're going to follow that logic, like just what brother was talking about now, if you believe that they will only implement policies according to how much money they can make, or whoever gives them the most money, well, then you have to accept the fact that the collective Jewish lobbies don't give them the most money. China gives them more money than the Jews. China gives them more money than the Zionists. Why don't you say that China controls your government? Why don't you say that? Because according to the logic that you are trying to convince yourself of, then your politicians are just being bought off by lobbies. So they're going to go to the highest bidder, and statistically, actually, in terms of the money that they spend, the lobbies are not the Jewish lobbies are not the highest bidder. So I mean, there's no leg for your argument to stand on.